Ben bibia boko de. Hello Ben, so tell me nka me mo achen eba eye Kessben match so.
Ya mi yakojo meto nkapa.
Nice. Okay. Mr. Meton Kappa, yeah, that's a say only here baby D and Como. Now I have seen your press release, the issues that you've raised in FIA National Petroleum Authority for home. Now there are two major things that I've seen in the thing and the person bubumu emayepa. You're telling us to say National Petroleum Authority dual responsibilities. One has to do with regulating the petroleum sector, and then the other one has to do with managing critical funds. Let's look at these two. If indeed Emrano share NPA said they should do these two jobs, why is your association and Juma Kuno FO say we should decouple it in a accountability and a face of fairness ebebem boyen komo
That's minia. No credit say we article 691 establish NPA in 2005 now. Sa act no money jumadi ni emienu. Ba kone say obey regulatory industry no based on various standards and procedures in industry. Now making sure say most of the petroleum service providers are very compliant to industry best practices, and these practices are established by the Act. Now we know through or sign Act from Section 66 also talks about managing a fund, and especially at that time they were Unified Petroleum Price Fund. And this Unified Petroleum Price Fund, a fund that the FA product from depot ediba filling station, and at the NTR and about NTR this fund by and this quantity no that's 2005 no they used to say union more a mantifi mantem most of the northern regions that's how union me ye kase jam market no am a market na set transport costa product be free adru stream no na ne boyding and this is adia ye may union more southern part no into prices man what you call cost sharing because of the distance from Accra Plains Depot and I say from Accra Plains Depot no closer to any of the filling stations in Accra no okay the cost of transporting the product from Accra Plains Depot to and any of the tank farms and storage facilities no to filling station comparatively cheaper compared to sell transport product from Accra to Tamale and Accra to Wa. So you bet set the price no fixed. Petrol bond so nemum you setting a fixer. You know more Accra no ebe tia you know srimfo no bi e kan bi amom so that abribia no fango bond be pay across the country. Intina the Unified Petroleum Price Fund buy. But you observe say Unified Petroleum Price Fund buy since 2005 NPA has never disclosed how these funds have been utilized, especially to the public, because these are public funds anyway. Especially na si etua ska de ama yenu mo musrima adentina say uji diska ni free meme ho a won disclose say they utilize this can in all the acts I establish Okroma. If you take the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 815 I amended to I think 873 or so. Okay, act now how we mobilize these revenues and how we utilize the revenues and who are the beneficiaries of the utilization of those revenues. Offer energy sector levy the 899 offer sikana yajijeno and how we utilize these monies. But over NPA only the collection, but in terms of accountability is zero. They don't account to us over the years since 2005. NPA has never accounted this money to the Ghanaian, and they've never disclosed how they've utilized excess funds and as a surplus income are free from these funds. Now, two, disclose fund the interest no. Yes, I will say fund no Emma NPA in the Juma year because one, they are the managers of this fund. They are the same time administrators of this fund, and the same time the supervisors of the administration of this fund. Nti sɛ woyɛ nipa baako na wo na wo sika no ɛhyɛ wo ho na wo nso na ɛwɔ so administer sika na generate conflict of interest, and ɛma consumer no ɛnya the optimal benefit from sɛ otua saa fund yi. Deɛ nti a meka saa ne sɛ nnɛ wohwɛ industry no mu a fuel diversion increase. Fuel diversion is obi alodi product no sɛ ɔpɛ sɛ ɔde kɔ stream na ɔlodi product no sɛ ɔde kɔ stream a product no compartments no they are 54,000 metric tons 54,000 liters 54,000 liters, which is the master track no ɔlodi sɛ ɔkɔ stream a no wakɔ discharge bɛyɛ mmiɛnsa na nnan ɛwɔ Accra na ɔde compartment baako pɛ ɛde akɔ stream ɔde kɔ stream a no wabɛgye stream sika as UPPF. Basa na abribia no affect Ghana ability to mobilize revenue because atro adoso industry no. That is one. Now two, in terms of diversion no, obisu kura timi lodu NAFTA. And as NAFTA no eye ade a ye de blend na ye generate other fuel products or even ye blend they generate premix ye the engine oil kan wana they premix fuel. Saa NAFTA ye lodu free atoabo to nkwa ne wo se o blend product yokruma nemu because of say NPA ne akudi sika no because what sika no e no money this unity no. The issue of NAFTA diversion is on the increase in Ghana. Among for the NAFTA no ton egu ye kam as engine oil as petrol say cars okruma we ni fradi ntina na ya Minister of Finance ema ye tax exemptions every marine gas oil so NPA adwuma ne san kan be ensure say marine gas oil no is for marine purposes, bigger trawlers no na so still na marine gas oil no eba industry no as auto gas oil which is AGO and as a diesel eba industry no as auto gas oil because of say density variations any other chemical variations or marine gas ni auto gas ni mutini ye di auto gas mo for a longer time it means your car. And most of your cars I say okrumano is because of some of these diversions are ever system no. Meaning we in free wa yes I say scano surplus I was aka chire yensin ye wudi surplus na bepem ne won chire say ne wudi surplus no. And because of say surpluses in the no, it entices some of the CEOs of mobile between any the umbeba to be corrupt because these are not expected. And a sikanon so bana eba so abribia na ema fango boyedin na fango boyedin no a also own account own disclose the utilization no dey na beba eba ho adi na obedi. So most of these guys take other advantages or opportunities to embezzle these funds because at the end of the day no they don't disclose these funds to anybody. When you omudi nkoma say o funds anka by law no it should not go to national security. Funds anka by law it is not meant for the presidency. Any presidency sika. But when you omudi nkoma sika me no mi no atua no yesi ya tibi e de akoma president. Ya tibi e de akoma national security. Why should the petroleum consumer bear the cost of national security operations? Say buying any sika or the national security I didn't know many also bitua. Why should the petroleum consumer bear the operations of the presidency? Say presidency ni sika I didn't know also bina mikutia. And now because of the presidency and the national security no the UPPF is overpriced. It 20 pesos per liter. It's just transport cost. Ya kachiri mianom GPRT for so munti o machine to aboso. Ya kachiri mianom committed for so munti o machine to aboso. Adentina the transport cost of petroleum products. NPA and TISO are still orders 90 pesos per liter. Even though price of the product no is what is because yes, they make a lot of revenue out of this. Some of these are revenue no. You who send you utilize this particular revenue. Now we in free we UPPF there are other funds. I we back we friend no cylinder recirculation margin and as in find the cylinder investment and bottling margin. In April 2024 and now NPA beka kire say on person more implement cylinder recirculation model. Now that cylinder recirculation model ndi was say yetua $80 per metric to help NPA and the government increase accessibility or penetration of LPG by 2030. Meaning, yɛtua $80 per metric key. Busumi bian $80 per metric key realize in excess of $2 million. They kind of dollars so. So $2 million ni since April. Share product offered through the cylinder circulation modular is less than 1% of total products consumed. So many do. NPA to mean disclosure you say. So even if the 2 million we allocate 1% at the mass cylinder investment, allocate maybe in 50% at the mass cylinder investment. They allocate 50% of the 1% now or move through the process. Emma, your friend is saying, you know, bottleless now, and I said bottle invest, bottle products now. Sika yedi mo munyan out of the 2 million no, is not even up to $100,000 per month. Nemum since April 2024, NPA has never accounted, has never disclosed Sika Umaji free away and how they've utilized this particular money. Omun disclosing Chirobia. And the cylinder recirculation model no, is still at its lowest stage because of poor implementation. Oman implementing the Omu focus ni say Sika Umoja free and hono any hiomo and not the implementation. As at May 2025, out of 28 million kilograms of products they consume only 131,000 and they pass it through the cylinder recirculation model. So NPA is overbilling us for a model that is poorly implemented, and I think that is also bad. And because of these things, no, Sikana could go more. Now, lastly, you have what we call the primary distribution margin, and also another fund. So, a fund we a interdepot fund. My boss to say, yan kati product no, enfan free boss depot e wakra, enfan ko biya tamale, enfan ko bupe, anase bi enfan ko kumasi, ana enfan ko bolga. Na minia, ohwe boss ni product, boss elodu okrum ha nyina na. Less than 7%, especially product that goes through the zonalization, less than 7%. Almost 93% of the products in private BDCs and they call hinterlands, for. And these private BDCs pay through the Unified Petroleum Price Fund. Sasika we aminium NPA AJ ama bosti and also realizing in excess of 900 million to almost 1.3 billion Ghana cedis a year. Sasika we NPA free and home. They've never accounted for how the surplus is being managed, how they've utilized the surplus over the years, or more accounting disclosing Chirobia. Intiye can say because of say Sikana kodosu NPA na akuku omoso prim nintino. Omujuma dia was ensure say product in the industry no air of quality. Products at OMCs no filling stations no serve the right quantity. NPA said on to me in Tubeka last year there were a lot of issues with respect to product quantity. People visited filling stations no moka say product serve ye deliver mono product no ye deliver the right quantity, and I think even Kessben showed some of the videos and no more complaining. In recent times there are people who are alleging that most of the products or motor free some of the OMCs no last quality, and the lack of quality no is because NPA area said the product quality ni quantity achine money sika wo so nya because ni dwumadi ewodi no man sika mmoroso ana amfaso bi any kwan se onya na sa amfaso no so no onhuni hu kwan se obe disclose achire obia oni hu kwan se obe account achire public no, and because of that no they renege on the critical responsibility and as issues I also moye na ma yes industry no a year of quality product and serve the right quantity product. Na minia we recently because of bad products they binumunya etimi ton by industry supervised by some workers at NPA nintino. We industry there's bad competition in the industry. Industry no obi ton the same product obi to me ton by 18 Ghana cedis. The same product obi ton 10 Ghana cedis. Ubisa say why that huge variation? NPA to me knew the entire huge variation war, but the huge variation is there because some of the OMCs no enya certain cheap products on the market. Some of them intentionally have not even paid some of the margins, net taxes, net products, and NPA knows them. I didn't think many no kwado ye tia say yenfa tax into product na bind their to so many no tia. Yes, yenfa margin to so many no tia. Na OMC di aji sa margin atena so e the business yi Name MPA who be say unlisted that those OMC kramau. Now say yema Ghana for nyina enya is motor products from this OMC. OMC is what MPA si on farm. But so MPA even abets and supports some of these OMCs now. Or maji minu sika or monfa buy no. Or support in not declaring the right revenues they are expected to declare to government, and also not paying the right revenues also remitting government. And these are some of the issues I raise. But fortunately, you raise to the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Finance has assured us that ye kasa ye decouple funds it was say decouple funds because NPA on a bank. NPA cannot be bank. Now how much did we inject in NIB? Yes, 2 billion. But the surplus income NPA sometimes it will grow 4 billion, and this 4 billion NPA has never accounted. Since minimum has never accounted how they've utilized this 4 billion, has never accounted how they've utilized the primary distribution margin surpluses, have never disclosed how they utilize UPS surpluses, have never disclosed how they've utilized cylinder recirculation margin surpluses. They won't disclose it to. And I think that indiscipline on their part is something that you can say is can from where the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Energy. So surpluses no you beat me the other priority projects are downstream because why are we talking about Lakan? We are talking about Lakan because your mooring system one, but some of these surpluses could have been used to develop a mooring system a bit mabwa amayanya free flow or discharge of products onto the Ghanaian petroleum downstream. Ne okoto area wa omokwa akwan nyina asai. Basa surpluses yi anke bitimi ade ayeto akwan any satema enclave na kwan ama omo lodu products no omo benefit from some of this. Nti ye dey can say surplus no kogu MP wa because of say so no it entices them to be corrupt. And that enticement no and they say omunyi from Franco Minister of Finance so that these surpluses could be used for priority projects in the petroleum downstream.
Okay, so Ben, I have some 1 or 2 questions with that may pay clarity on. One has to do with the perception. I think it will still be a perception because we still don't have the fact that if they still do and as dual responsibility now, corruption really exists within that particular friend is saying now you did mention right now say anka wunya ya anka yemfama Ministry of Finance and as energy ministry wouldn't it also come as the same corruption argument now more na again say uka say omo enye your friend is saying fans the surplus na they should be using it for some of these things but one yan into say omo yusu say presidency ni other ones in any case national security and all. Are these agencies not to raise money for government expenditure and government institutions to also have some to also run
Okay, so some of the funds now as established by the Act, STT, how the funds should be utilized, the purpose of these funds, and none of them should say this can be called presidency. Any presidency seeker. Tanker owners and the tanker drivers, and these tanker owners and tanker drivers, some of especially the tanker drivers, they are the least paid. Meaning, I can't say the tanker drivers be due chroma ubusu. Tanker drivers are more cutting this highly inflammable product, high risk product. Now a month, a BG 1,007, a BG 1,005. Now meaning Uber driver practicing. Uber driver or just saying a BG 1,005, 1,007. A B no any insurance, whether medical insurance, whether social security, a B maybe. A B any benefit. So why should many say ye sika, say improve the welfare of the tanker driver, improve the investment, and also that the tanker owner to be able to recoup the investment. Now yati says can say the national security, and I say the co-presidency. It is wrong. It is against MRA. Right? We now will be say the other side know whether they will not be corrupt. You see, one good thing about the Ministry of Finance is that Se sika kɔ ne hɔ a, they are legal structures, they are administrative structures. As administrative structures no, Emma yetimi hu how these funds have been utilized, right? But say me ka say no, for example, we Minister of Finance, the revenues are onya, the expenditure onya. At the end of every budget year, no, obe list the expenses. No, list the revenue. Utimi hu line by line items how revenues have been utilized, and periodically, no, even our debt sustainability framework, and I said the public debt records, no, the Minister of Finance makes sure that no so around and how every revenue is utilized. The American say sikano NPA. NPA doesn't disclose the surpluses. And let me give you one example. I make us say corruption. In 2022, Kessben, I raised this issue on Kessben TV. Me raising this particular issue on Kessben TV. The then NPA, FRA meeting, stakeholders engagement, because it became an issue in Accra. Offer stakeholder engagement. In 2022, I think the engagement was held in 2023 or maybe 2024 September or June thereabout. FRA meeting, in 2022 they made a surplus of 320 million Ghana cedis from the UPPF. Baudim Arosame Auditor General report. Auditor General report and said in 2022 we made a deficit of 131 million Ghana cedis. Adia Obi catcher and say you make a surplus of 320 million in 2022. No, Auditor General catcher and say you make a deficit of 131 million in the same year. So what they even present to us as industry stakeholders, Anaminia Bemboachi woho, Minia Kofi Bentel woho from Imani, Minia Dankanamo woho from Kope, and also Mimi woho from Semseno. Omo present no is different from what they even give the auditors. So information inconsistency from this particular organization. And Madika Kase until say ye be and the Obi Kase be ye sa margins and as a fund management activities if you affect your revenues. It will never affect their revenues. Because NPA ni fees and charges in Kwanumia will be able to take care of them 10 times. Omo fees and charges omo from the industry no. A bit me had taking care of them 10 times. I'm a big cracker. Right? But they take these monies and they don't explain how they even expend it. But okay, cigar report almost surpluses. They even tell us they make surpluses less than 150 million Ghana cedis. But okay, cigar corner surplus was NPA making should be in excess of 200 million Ghana cedis.
Robin, my main business has with two questions. One, will Semsem want to go to court if indeed say NPA is not doing what they are supposed to do? Nanka rather channeling your issues to finance minister to check, and I'm on court now. Yen Shomo said, okay, more two responsibilities to do. Now declare the funds and let us know what gets into the fund and how you utilize it, rather than maybe saying yen decouple. Is it not going to take that too many papers back and forth to say I feel no mabeshe contractor airline but rather your associate your group will want to ensure say ye court near shomo say indeed as I say Emrana say mom share how you utilize it yenya nesamum.
I think there will be a better legal process no but the entire same say you hold this particular position is a buy person amend the NPA Act, the 691. Now amendment no yahu say aban still now per se oja sikano edimomo and they have their own other reasons. I think the previous government started amending the act but me and the bill no that's what drafting stage, and I think same say any other civil society organizations ama your position clear to the Ministry of Energy on how we want these funds to be utilized and who should manage these particular funds. And yet the say beyond court process, which could also take a longer time, and we know how our justice system sometimes is. Yet the say yebema Minister of Finance no, and I think medical can say yema Minister of Finance no who you know some of these things, because Obekumokrano now Minister of Finance or Minister of Energy is not even aware of some of these monies alcohol. But the man who you know what he say he will take an action and ensure that we do that decoupling. Who say Dr. Konradonko, I think he also supports this particular argument. Says Konradonko is an experience since 1993, was even working at Bost. He's an experienced petroleum downstream person. Also, any argument say Sikana Kohono Dawson. But on only position, they say Yemaskanka name surplus nebekano, Yemfanko Minister of Finance. Yet the can say Sikano Kohwa, Ekawa, it entices them to be corrupt. So beyond legal process, say Beko court, Akosiki say, Yem Yusus Kano, and Fanya de was said, Yemom declare the revenues. No, Quadro the can say, the can say, was said Minister of Finance and Eddie Corporal, because a cow even a cow 1,000 years, Quadro, a cow 1,000 years, Crana, the enemy say, still no, or more end disclosure. They'll have excuses, be as excuses, no, Emma, or moon disclosure. This particular scanner MIN. Say and it also fits into the new bill or Modebano. The new bill no must ensure that NPA does not manage the funds because excessive management of some of these funds, like becoming a financial institution, Emma the right quality product on the market, Emma the right quantity. I also almost serve at the filling station. It leads to unhealthy competition in the market, as we observe today. And then most of the OMCs are closing down. LED to some OMCs not paying these margins, and then if you know someone, there are OMCs who have not paid UPPF, even government OMCs or UPPF since January, and no one is not even telling Ghanaians why these people have taken money from us and they are not paying. Say a Minister of Finance there or no bed declare because only interest or bed declare or more modi and car or declare more modi and car. So that's our purpose. We may not go to court so that court process will keep long and dragging. The process, and they say we have told the finance minister this week we are likely going to add a petition to him because he spoke to us and accepted in principle. But before the petition no one will say near break say sad decoupling it must happen because I am happy now. Ability to certain indiscipline in the petroleum downstream, as we've observed.
Because me know we crap, but I'm still worried about this one because you've mentioned now 3 institutions in the mix. One has to do with Munyaya and Kessben Ministry of Finance. When we declare, they will tell us everything what is really happening. We've mentioned Energy Ministry. I mean, all these people, all these institutions, still works with NPA. So it's finance, energy, and then the NPA. How are we so sure that even if granted that finance will always want to tell you and declare what is even there? You just said that in the same year, one declared to you that you are a profit. That same year, the same government comes with the report and tell you we have a deficit. So I am looking at how we can believe these institutions you even want to, I mean, in their board, take this thing to them, say, I'm a little bit worried on that. Wait, my clarity, I can't see anything here.
Okay, with clarity, I think that yes, I think worry should not be something I will say about him because I've stated the reasons why I was saying finance. Finance periodically declares all revenue sources, all income streams. Finance based on their structure, even Petroleum Revenue Management Act, account performance of revenues and how they've utilized them. And finance, a very open or pretty open door policy, and this open door policy allows us to know how we've mobilized or how much we've mobilized from a lot of revenue streams. Until finance will be able to manage these funds. That is one. 2, finance or other priority projects are some of these surpluses could be diverted or diversified into making sure that all the infrastructure needed in the petroleum downstream is put to use. And as these monies are redirected to put in areas able to develop the infrastructure. Because tema enclave because but these monies were sitting at NPA. I didn't think I am fast surplus income maybe and tema enclave coin several times last year last year most tanker drivers sit down strike because of toll kwan enye, but these surplus incomes were at NPA. But sanke or finance, at least your finance no finance bit was okay. Say your surplus income be over you redirecting fanye toll kwan na emma tanker owners no and as a tanker drivers no or movement from toll and end of the depots no a bit me abwa amomatimadi or mujumaye. Inti we think that finance is more accountable, finance is more transparent compared to say Scanobel NPA. And finance has a lot of priority projects. As our priority projects, obi to me edisika we akodi. NPA is not a company and as an authority or engage in priority projects. Only obia or build infrastructure. Finance and a build infrastructure. This is finance and a build infrastructure. I didn't scano yen fan kono na se bika obi to me their build infrastructure. Or build infrastructure so na o disclose who says kai amayehu the aka. Nti ye the kasani is simple. Say you may have ambiguity, you may have questions to say scano enkoswa NPA, but we think that from 2005, NPA has never disclosed how these monies have, these incomes have performed or funds have performed and how they've utilized the funds over the years. And we think that the time has come for us to decouple, and also fuse into the new bill na ebano say new bill na ebano how the composition of the structure of the fund management. I think if you look at it carefully, even though we say it was eco finance, you assign in, for example, SEMSE's position is that for you, the new fund management committee should be made up of faith-based organizations, should be made up of petroleum consumers, whether GPRTU, whether COPEC, whether GRTCs, whether progressive. They are the petroleum consumers, whether private petroleum consumers. They should be part of the new fund management because they are music and mutia. The second part is that we're also calling on say civil society because how this money are performing and how are being utilized. Until also civil society so can the new fund management committee until yen kasebia yen first canon question finance minister say na enshe na sekwa ye can say this canon finance minister say the new constitution and I say the new fund management committee should be made up of various stakeholders or utilizing fuel or chroma so that you make it up all the various stakeholders including tanker owners union, coordinators of OMCs, GPRTU who are mostly predominantly consumers of petroleum products, COPEC who is maybe a civil society in that particular regard. Young constitute committee, you never become one, you never say, Yesika e piano, you never value for money, Yesika e piano, ye the adepa, Yesika e piano, surplus, you the generating certain infrastructure on the stream, a big boy in Nama, ye petroleum downstream, a bear crabbe.
Raben, you better see. Be brave. Only Edin Komora Benjamin Isian, Executive Director, Emma, Center for Environment Management and Sustainability, and Edin Komora.